Do you ever feel held back in life by fear and uncertainty? Do you ever experience a gnawing sense of dissatisfaction with life, even though it seems like you're doing everything that you ought to be doing? Do you feel like life has more to offer, but you're afraid to go for it? In this video, I'm going to tell you how you can use the teachings of Aleister Crowley to experience less fear and to start living a more fulfilling life today. Let's dive in. In the show Rick and Morty, Rick Sanchez is a brilliant scientist who is also reckless. He's a genius, but he takes lots of risks. By contrast, his grandson, Morty, is not a genius at all. He's a good-natured boy, but he's also very trusting and naive. In one episode of this show, Rick takes his grandson Morty to play a video game called Roy on an alien planet. Rick puts the headset of this game on Morty, and Morty instantly wakes up in a bed that he doesn't recognize, and in the body of a child who is not him, a child named Roy. His mother comes into the bedroom and asks him what is wrong. And the child says that he had a weird dream where an old man put a helmet on him and he woke up in a strange bed. His mother assures him, Roy, that he just had a bad dream and to go back to bed. The following day, Roy goes to school, and the years pass and he lives his life. He becomes captain of the football team. He ends up getting married, and over time, he starts to raise a family of his own. Roy goes to work in a carpet store to support his family, but his heart isn't really in it. One day, Roy gets diagnosed with cancer, but he manages to beat it. He goes back to work in the carpet store, and one day when he's reaching overhead to grab up a carpet, he falls off of a step stool and he dies. Game over. The helmet comes off, and Morty realizes that he's been playing a game this entire time. He had lived a whole other life in this game and thought that it was real. The game was so compelling and so immersive that he never stopped to question whether any of it was real. Rick teases Morty. He says, "You managed to beat cancer and you went back to work at the carpet store?" Then Rick puts on the helmet and he starts playing the game. But he starts to play in a much riskier fashion in the game. Pretty soon, a crowd develops around them. Rick has gone off the grid and doesn't even have a social security number anymore. Now, admittedly, I am not a Rick and Morty fan. I actually found out about this episode when I was watching another video on another YouTube channel called Modern Intuitionist, which was also really good. I'll link to it below. But this episode actually got me thinking about something having to do with Aleister Crowley and Thelema. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what could this possibly have to do with Crowley and Thelema? In order to explain that, you have to understand something first about how Aleister Crowley viewed and understood the universe. According to Crowley, nothing exists but gods. There are no tables, chairs, days of the week, brains, peace treaties, or causal interactions. The universe is just stars all the way down. Now, if you're in OTO, you've probably heard before that stars are adventuring gods. They travel through the universe and they encounter star systems and planets and living beings, which they then decide to incarnate into. The story of the adventuring god constitutes a mythological understanding of what a star is, but it's not the only kind of explanation of stars that Crowley provided. According to other explanations Crowley gives, these stars don't just float around in the universe like spaceships. According to Crowley, they actually exist outside of space and time. But they have the power of creating projections of themselves in space and time and living out mortal lives. Every man and every woman is a star, but from this other metaphysical point of view, what that means is that each one of us is like a projection on a movie screen, or we are like a character in a video game. We are not really real. We are just instruments that gods use to explore themselves and to explore the universe. This implies something very important about why we are here. It means that the ultimate purpose of our lives is to explore. There is no higher good than exploration for its own sake. From the perspective of these godlike beings, these stars, the entire purpose of life, of incarnation, is to explore possibilities within this game. It's to play the game of life in such a way as to maximize the number of possibilities that are opened and that are experienced. There is no ultimate purpose to this game. There's no final outcome to it, because that would imply that the game ends prematurely, in fact. The universe we exist in is infinite, and the game of life is an infinite game. The entire purpose of it is just to unfold all of the infinite possibilities latent within this game. To wake up in the spiritual sense means to come to recognize that we are merely characters or avatars within this game. In other words, it means to detach from our egos. When we detach from our egos, it doesn't mean that we simply stop caring about ourselves or other people in the game. For example, think about what it's like to watch a movie in a movie theater. Nothing that happens on the movie screen is real. There's no causal interactions taking place between the characters. When one character in the movie slaps another character, it's not as though a hand strikes an actual face. The only causal interaction taking place is between the projector and the screen. And we know on some level that this is true. Everybody knows that a movie is not real life. But it's not like that stops us from caring about the characters or caring about the story. We still laugh. We still experience suspense. We experience joy. We even cry. Similarly, to recognize that life is a game or is like a game doesn't mean that we stop caring about what happens in it. It doesn't mean that we stop experiencing all of our emotions around it. If anything, realizing that life is a game could free us from the anxiety that is holding us back from experiencing life more intensely. This is what it's like to wake up in this reality. This is what it's like to detach from our egos. So what would it be like to live life knowing this? Would you be braver, bolder, take more risks? Would you play the game more like Morty, or would you play the game more like Rick? Would you live in such a way as to open more possibilities in the game, or would you continue trying to anxiously preserve and hold on to what you have? Would you start to value experience, skill, courage, and detachment? Would you feel free to experience more joy no matter what's happening on the screen? Can you start to see how some of the values that are expressed in the Thelemic holy books naturally and organically grow out of this transformed view on reality? By the way, if you find my take on Thelema interesting or even surprising, there's a good chance you would enjoy my free PDF, Unlocking the Mysteries of Thelema. You can find a link to download it in the description of this video. Now, whether you think it's literally true that we live in a game or whether it's just a metaphor, one thing is certain. It helps us see the importance of exploration in our lives. Exploration can mean learning skills, getting a job, putting a roof over your head, putting food on the table, clothes on your back, right? This is the kind of exploration that Morty engaged in when he played the game Roy. But there's another meaning of exploration, which is where it means pursuing things that you find to be intrinsically interesting and intrinsically enjoyable for no other reason than just for exploration itself. And when we start to think about exploration in this sense, it starts to match up in really important ways with the concept of true will in Thelema. What do you think? Did this video help deepen your understanding of Thelema, or has it helped you to see life in a new way? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you find this video interesting, there's a really good chance you're going to find this other video interesting as well. So go check it out. Until next time, love is the law, love under will.